On this episode, we'll discuss creating a first-time guest experience that actually connects. Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast, the show that is dedicated to inspiring leaders and empowering healthy churches. I'm Kendall Connor, and I'm joined by my co-host here on the Ministry Brands team, and that is Jess Moore. How are you today, Jess?
Hey, Kendall, I am doing pretty good.
Well, I know you probably are excited to talk about this topic because I know that this is one that you are kind of passionate about, right?
It is. I think it's really important that we make people feel loved anytime we
Yeah.
encounter them, but definitely if they're a first-time guest at a church.
Yeah, this is super important, and I love that we get to talk through this today. Before we jump into the content, I do want to say that we want to take a couple of minutes to recognize that this is kind of a special episode. This is a bittersweet episode, if I can say it like that,
Mhm.
because Jess, today is actually going to be your last time co-hosting with us, and last
Mhm.
time that you're going to be with us on the Ministry Brands team.
Yeah.
For all of our listeners out there, Jess is going to be stepping into an exciting new season. We're so excited for her because she is pursuing full-time ministry. She's going to be
Mhm.
jumping into an opportunity to live out so many of the things that she has spent her time here teaching and encouraging and equipping so many of you to do. And so, Jess, I want to let you know that we are so excited for you. And even though we are super sad to see you go, I want to let you know that you made such a meaningful impact during your time
Mhm.
here at Ministry Brands, because I know that you've done about 1 million webinars, right? The webinar queen is what our team calls her. But you've played such a big part with the Healthy Church Summit and your work here on the podcast. So many different conversations and resources. And I know that you've encouraged so many ministry leaders out there. And so we first want to just say thank you and let you know that we're excited for you. You've made such a big impact here.
Thanks, Kendall. Yeah, bittersweet is a perfect way to say it. I think as have gone through this week and done a lot of it's my last time meeting with this person,
Yeah,
my last time doing this. And it has been very bittersweet. I've been with Ministry Brands for 7 years. It's a long time and a lot of relationships
yeah,
here. And but really, truly, the work that I have been able to do kind of facing church leaders, right? So with
right,
the webinars or with the podcast and with the Healthy Church Summit has been the most meaningful to me, because it
yeah,
really at its core, we really truly just want to give you guys knowledge, right? To be able to do your job
yes,
well and lead well,
right.
impact the kingdom. And so, yeah, it is very cool that I get to step into the role is literally director of guest experience. So we're going to talk very practically about some tips that I probably need to remember moving into this role. But yeah, I am truly so excited. I've been, chomping at the bit to actually get
Yeah, yeah,
into practice all these things that we've talked about. So I'm sure it'll be different. I feel like on paper, right? I know what to do because we've talked about it so much or written ebooks and
sure.
things, but I know
Yeah,
it's going to be different, while we're there. But at the end of the day, I know that I can make people feel loved when I meet them. That's something that sometimes overwhelms people about me. I just don't know a stranger. And so hoping that I can use that spiritual gift of hospitality
yeah.
in a way that is serving the kingdom. So anyway, yeah,
You're
excited.
you're going to do great. We're cheering you on, and then I know that I can speak for all of our team here at Ministry Brands, and I think all of the listeners, everyone who's a part of this podcast. When we say that we're going to miss you, but we're definitely wishing you the very best. Thanks for all the care and the wisdom that you brought to the podcast. And yeah, I'm excited. Even as to kind of as we shift to this conversation, you mentioned it. You're going to be working. You're going to be very hands on
Yeah.
with this type of topic. And so
Yes.
I'm excited to hear your perspective on it. It's a great way to kind of send you off. And so I'm excited to jump into the content today. But definitely want to let you know that we appreciate you, Jess.
Thanks, Kendall. Appreciate it. What a sweet send off.
All right. Well, for all of you listeners out there, before we do jump into the content today, we've got so many great tips that we're going to be sharing with you for a great guest experience and welcoming those first time guests. We want to make sure that you are following along, that you are subscribed. And so
Mhm.
if you have not hit that subscribe button wherever you're enjoying our show, definitely make sure that you do. Just want to put that bug in your ear before we jump into the content today, because we want to keep on bringing great content to you, because we will be continuing these conversations as we move forward. So we want to make sure that you're getting those notifications for when we put out new content.
Mhm.
All right, well, let's jump in. If we're wanting to create a first time guest experience that actually connects with people, there's some basic tips that I feel like will go a really long way. We
Mhm.
know that, when someone's coming to a church for the first time, how do they feel, Jess? What do you think? Can you remember that experience even coming to your own church?
Yeah, and I grew up in the church, and so it wasn't necessarily an intimidation factor of going to a new church. I think it was more so intimidating of not knowing, like, logistically where to go, right?
Yeah, like,
So
where do I go? That's the first thing I'm
exactly,
thinking.
where's the sanctuary? Where's kids' church? Like, just,
Yes.
and most churches have good signage, and we'll talk through some tips, but I think that was the biggest thing for me was and, like, how do I dress? Right? So, like,
That's
churches
a
are
good
a
one.
little different in this area. So,
Yes.
yeah, I think that yeah, I mean, we can jump right in unless
Yeah.
you had anything to add beforehand, Kendall, but yeah, I definitely
Well,
remember.
I think maybe just something that's good to say, like, as we're starting off, is any of these things that we're talking through, they're genuinely come from the heart of, like, we're trying to help people. If you can
Right.
take them from that, it's not about impressing people. It's
Yes.
not about, like trying to have the perfect church or the, perfect anything, perfect experience. It really is just to help people to feel like they can find a place to belong, help people to feel seen,
Yeah.
and legitimately just make it easier for them to take a step forward in their faith. And so
Mm,
that's the lens that we'll be taking it through. And I would encourage all of you at home to be thinking about that as well. But yeah, Jess, do you want to kick us off on number one, our first tip for this?
yeah. Number 1, make your website answer the questions that we just talked about, right? Uh,
Mm,
it is pretty much the standard now that people will go and look at a website, occasionally social media, Google reviews, not usually for church,
yeah.
but in general, like before you head out for the day and you're
Yes.
trying a new restaurant, I will always take a look online
That's
first.
me.
And
100%.
I mean, I think it's over 80% of people check out a website before they ever attend a church. Stats a little
Wow.
outdated. We've talked about this, a number of times, but it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people that are going there first. And so, what can you do on your website that when that new person gets there, they have a very clear roadmap on how to navigate your website to get the answers that they need. It's not the only purpose for your
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
And so, yeah, of course, you're gonna have additional pages, but you know that that person is going to be visiting your website for sure. So how can you provide a really clear way for them to navigate to know exactly what their first time guest experience will look like?
I feel like this is important because what we're saying is, a lot of times we think like, okay, we want to have a great experience for our guests. We're thinking like in the moment. But what you're saying is it goes even farther than that. We have to back up a little bit and say, this is actually going to start before they ever get to the parking lot. They're going to
100.
check it out online first.
Mhm.
And, in the same way that you are looking up that restaurant and checking out the menu before you go, that's just the world that we're in now, right?
Right.
People are looking for that too. I feel like, so anything that you can give them, that gives them like helpful tips for
Yeah.
the day. Even things, so like you want to make sure everything is updated, obviously. So like
Mhm.
your address, that's a big one. Like we should not be making people like have to scramble and like search and
Right.
go
Yeah.
just to find like where are they supposed to go.
Yeah.
Same thing with service times, right? Like don't make it a mystery to know what time to show up. You know
Def
what I mean? Like
yeah.
clearly display that address, those service times.
Mhm.
Even like I feel like photos go a really long way. So like if they
Yeah.
know like what they're going to be looking for. Yes, I'm going to go in that door, right? Like it's the simple things, right, that we don't think about because we're there every week.
Exactly. That's such a good point, Kendall, because, like, raise your hand if you look at all the pictures before you even read the reviews for the restaurant. I'm like, I wanna go for, like, a certain vibe. So, like, I'll always
Yeah,
read the
well, that's
pictures
true. Yeah.
first, and I think that is just kind of human nature. So that's a
Mhm.
great call out to add, make sure you have current pictures.
Yeah, yeah, well, and the pictures will communicate so much, right? Because like you were talking about, like, what you wanna know, like, what kinda outfit you should show up in and things like
Right.
that, and, do I see people who are my age? And, like but, like, these are the things that, like, people do you see are there other families with kids there? Like, these are the things that people are thinking about,
Wondering.
maybe that they don't
Right.
say out loud,
Yeah.
is this a place where I'll fit in?
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And then, I mean, we mentioned your address and your service times. Also, I know this episode is not about Google, but that's going to be the first thing that kind of pops up naturally. And so make sure that you're
Mm,
also correct and your address is also correct there. Um,
absolutely.
Beyond
Yeah.
just the website, because they may not even make it that far if they're even just, like, in the car, like, "Where's this place again?" So, make sure that that's
Yes.
up to date as well.
It's a good
But
call
then
out.
too, just I think there's things that we need to think beyond, um, like, what they see visually, what they're gonna experience logistically when they get there, right? So those are the
Mhm.
what I was saying that I experienced, and so, what do they offer for children, I think is a huge one so that you know whether you need
Right.
to pack your kid a whole bag because 'cause they're going somewhere else. Are they staying with me? Do I need to
Yes.
I don't know, there's a lot of questions there.
Yeah, especially you think about families, like, they're gonna wanna know what the experience is gonna be for their kiddos, and so
Yeah.
any of that information that you can provide
Mhm,
100%, that's gonna
mhm.
go a long way.
Yeah, yeah, and then too, how does the parking situation work or look like? Do we have to walk long distances in this heat? I mean, there's little things that truly may
Right.
like, if it's
Yeah.
may seem like a silly thing to set as an expectation, but that could be the thing that is the reason they never come back. Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe how far that parking lot was. We're carrying, 3 toddlers. We can't go in there with a stroller. I don't think we can go back there, right? That could be the thing. They could make up their mind before they even get inside. But then entrances, accessibility is a huge one that I think is overlooked a lot. Um,
Yeah. I mean, so many good things that just don't even get me started on the parking lot because I literally have been shopping what are the multi-row golf carts, like with the
yeah,
the golf carts with all the seats. So I've been in this mindset thinking about that exact thing
yeah,
for our church. So don't
yeah,
even get me started on that. I'll talk all day about the 20 different types of golf cart
yeah.
that you can buy for your parking team.
Listen, though, that golf cart experience, if you've got the right driver, that's another way to, like, make up their minds
Next level.
the door. We've had the
Yeah.
sweetest, funniest golf cart drivers, and then not only are you like, "Wow, this is such a VIP experience right to the front door," but then you've got, like, this sweet person that is answering questions, and I don't know. I go
Next
it. Do it.
level.
Do it, Kendall. Buy the golf cart.
That's for sure. Well, the second thing that we kind of want to talk through, a second tip that we have for this is kind of in line with that website. And that is on your website to offer a simple plan a visit form. Jess,
Mm.
you've been big on this before. I think this is something you've talked about, even led a webinar maybe on some forms for this.
Yes. So I think this is kind of like a low pressure RSVP for people.
Yeah.
They I think even asking the right questions helps set the expectation. And they
Yeah.
know that you are anticipating them. So that kind of back to kids, because I think that's the part that's the most like as a
Yeah.
parent, you really as your own individual person, you're like, "I can pivot if I have to walk far in the parking lot. We'll see how we feel when we get in there." But with your kids and you're like, "I need to know what the experience will be like. I need to know that it's safe. I need to know that they're not being brainwashed. I need to know, these things." And so I think if you're asking the right questions there, it allows, them to feel like it will be a very tailored experience for them, and it allows you to plan well, right? And so the whole form, not just the part about parents, but like the whole form. What is your name?
Yes.
How many members are in your family? Have
Yes.
you, I don't know what you can ask a bunch of questions here depending on your church experience, but um
Something that I saw recently. So I've heard two different sides of this. I've heard someone who talk with the church who does this very simply, right?
Yeah.
So they ask the bare minimum because they want to make sure that people will fill this out, right? So they ask their name, they may ask their email or their phone number, whichever way they prefer to be contacted.
Okay,
And
yes.
then they have the option if they want to provide pre-register their kids, which is just helpful because
Well,
they
that's
won't
good.
have to
That's a good way to do
do
it.
so much when they show up, right? And
Mhm.
so that's really great because that's going to unlock you to the potential to be able to follow up with them. And
Yeah.
so if they, if that may look like an automation. So we talk about
Mhm. Mhm.
technology all the time, right? You
Mhm.
can automatically let your team know. You can set up a workflow so that your team knows to be expecting them just from that simple name and contact information. And then
Yes.
also send, we talk about the address, a quick text that says, like, hey, when you're ready, when you start heading our way, here's the address so that it's right there in their text messages
So
and they
good.
can just click it.
Love it.
And then, so that's like a simple way, and it makes a huge difference. I
Mhm.
also have even heard from a church who they take it even, they have a team that's dedicated to this each week that actually, if someone plans their visit, they will call them and even have like a time where they introduce themselves so that they already know somebody before
Yeah,
they ever show up to church,
that's
which
cool.
is, I mean, that definitely is like a next level experience. And,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
say that in a descriptive, not a prescriptive kind of way. Like one
Sure.
of these ways may work for you, other ways may not. But finding that way, but a simple plan a visit can kind of unlock all of these ideas.
Yes, I love that the simplicity of the form with the ability to add more. I know our forms does that. Like there's conditional formatting, so you can
Hmm.
choose for it to show or not show
Yes.
on the form. So that's a great way to not scare them off with like all these form fields, but then also allow them
Right.
to give more information if they feel comfortable. That's great. I love that. Uh,
Well, and I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, Jess, but number three is to actually use workflows to prepare before they arrive.
that's right.
And with that, so like I touched on that just a little bit, but
Yeah.
really collecting someone's information is only really helpful if it leads to some meaningful action that kind of comes with it. And so if they
Mhm.
do submit that plan a visit, you want to make sure that like it's actually doing something. And so if they enter their information and when they arrive and like no one's expecting them, or like they never heard any, never got an email, never got a text, never got a call, it just makes them wonder why I even did that
Right.
process.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And there is so much ability, and we've talked about workflows quite a bit, but there's workflows and then there's interactions. Those are kind of different, right? So, like a workflow is really truly hands off for the staff. Once you set it, you kind of forget it. So, still very helpful. It really helps kind of operationally, but the interaction piece, I think, is where um, it's most impactful to your guest, right? To the person who completed the form.
Yes.
And so that's where you can assign a personal text message and you assign it to someone on the team to say, like, hey, that text message about the directions, Kendall, brilliant. I love that. I wish that
Yeah.
everybody did that for me anytime I went anywhere because I use my GPS for everything. So it's like, can't wait to see what your
All right.
dentist appointment. As a
Right.
reminder, here's our quick address. That's a great idea. And so that would allow you to do that through an interaction. I would recommend that would be a little bit
Hmm.
more personal. And then they can even go a step further to say, hey, we'll meet you out front. I don't know how you want to do that, but that's great. So that's an interaction. Works very similarly where the notification, the reminder to the person who's doing the thing gets reminded, but then the person
Yeah.
does it. I think that's fantastic. And then workflows allow you to drop
Yes.
into like small groups is probably the best example use case
Yeah.
for someone new is then they are added into a new person group. You can set up a workflow where the new person group people get moved after 3 months, right? They're
Right.
the family or whatever your timeline is, but there's so much you could do on the back end to ensure that people feel like you know that they're there, for how long
Yes.
they've been there, and how to kinda shepherd them along in a super intentional way.
So something that we do every Sunday at our church is with someone fills out that form, they say like, "Hey, we planned our visit, like we're coming." we will let our people who are standing out at a first time guest tent, they know that Jess signed up for her and her family to show up that day. And so they are waiting. And something that we've done is we will do something that's customized just for that person. So if Jess says that she's coming, their card is going to have Jess's name already on that, like just as a way to signify we prepared for you. Like your
Yeah.
gift is going to be personalized in that way. And so
Mm,
that but the big takeaway I think is that that we're waiting for you. We're
mm.
expecting you when you come in, and letting them know that like whatever your next step is, that we're here to help you.
Yeah, I love that. And there's a way to do this well, and there's a way to do this, like, not well. So, like, what you don't wanna do is call out the brand new person in the sanctuary once you are done with
That's a good call out.
announcements, right? So I think, because I was thinking through that, I'm like, would everybody appreciate that? I do think everybody would appreciate that. That would make me feel great, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
Calling
then
them out in the service, probably
not
not so much,
mm,
right?
not
Yeah.
everybody will love that. Some people would love that, but not everybody. So
And I think I've shared this actually on the podcast before, but just something else that we do that's may not be so noticeable to the guests to make them feel excluded, but we every time that they come in, we have this almost like comically large card that we give them that has all of this information on it about everything they can expect on their day. But
mhm,
if anyone in our church sees someone carrying that card, they know that that's someone who's there for the very first time, and it triggers for them like, "Hey, I want to go and I want to make sure that I introduce myself. I want to make sure that I'm kind of looking out for this person, so to speak."
right, right.
And then taking upon themselves to, let themselves put themselves out there and introduce them rather than waiting on them to introduce them, right?
Yeah, that's so great. We do gift bags, and so,
Mm,
yeah, same kind of principle. I feel like most churches do something like this, and someone might put
yeah,
it in their purse, and you don't see it at all, but I think it's a
right.
great idea, and that needs to be part of your culture too, is just, like, somehow
Yes,
communicated definitely among your volunteer teams, and then kinda beyond that if it's a possibility, right? So, we wanna just welcome
it's
our
good.
members and, I don't know, make them feel seen and loved, so
It's
yeah,
good.
and then kinda closing up on workflows, I think too, after they have experienced your service, how can you kind of bookend that initial
Yes.
conversation and address and welcome to, following up with them afterwards or just thanking them like, "Hey, we're so glad you came today." If you can personalize that a little bit, if you can set it up in a
Yeah.
workflow where it's a little bit more generic, still totally does the job, especially if they've had a pretty good engagement with you while they were there. But if you do have the ability, it's maybe the same person that sent that address sends the closing, text even that afternoon and just to say like, "Hey, it was really great to see you.
Yes.
Nice to meet you. Your kids are precious." Whatever you wanna say that makes them feel like, "Oh, this is actually a personal message for me."
Well, and I think, there's gonna be some things that you wanna automate in a way that they automatically get those, and you can use that for the logistics, right? Like the addresses, the links to share or the links to, check out, more about our kids ministry or the link, check out our, Connect card or, like whatever, like the things that, or more like logistics, those are good to come automatically. But if
Right.
you can tack on that item where, okay, a follow up for a pastor to follow up with them that week, or that same person that they met at the first time guest tent for them to follow up and say, hey, it was great to meet you.
Mhm.
That's where I feel like it goes to the next level, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure, and again, you can still automate that in a way with interaction,
Mm,
so
yes,
win-win.
that's a good call out.
Yeah,
Well, Jess, do you want to take number 4?
sure. Okay, make the arrival experience unmistakably clear. Thanks for giving that to me, that was a thing that I struggled with when I first visited my church, and I didn't struggle, once I got there, everything was indicated, but, especially if you are a set up and tear down church, which we were at the time, right? Like,
Mm,
this is a little bit more challenging for you. But if you don't have the signage, just have the people there. Have someone with a lanyard, a badge, or something that they know I can ask this person questions and they probably know what's going on, right?
Things that seem obvious to those of us who are there every single week are not clear. They're not so obvious for people who are there for the first time, right? Like,
Right.
they do not know how to navigate your parking lot. No, even if it's a small parking lot, right?
Mhm.
Like, they may not know which door to go in. They may not know where kids check-in is, or are you a church that starts on, right on time, or do should I be there 10 minutes early? Should I be there right on time? Should, like,
Yeah.
all of these things. It can be kind of confusing.
Mhm.
And so it adds uncertainty, adds unnecessary stress. And
Right.
so some signs go a really long way, Jess.
Mhm. Yep. Yes, yes. Visuals, anything that you can provide. Um, the correct entrance, I think, is a huge one because again, you're flustered, you're there. I mean, that could be something that turns people away entirely. Like, I
Mm,
can't figure out how to get in here. We're leaving. That feels
yeah,
like Jeff on like a stressful morning. He'd be like, forget it, we're out of here. So I think,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, if you your address, sometimes addresses land kind of weird. And so double check that. And if you know it's just taking them to the front gate of your property, then can you have signage even from there that takes them to, the right spot, the right parking lot? Also,
yeah,
in the way of parking lot, like we've heard this suggested before, but can you offer designated parking for first time guests? I think that's like ideal situation right there.
yeah,
That spot's gonna be nice and close to the door. You'll probably have someone in that general area that can help direct them further. So and that tells you,
yeah.
"Oh, this is a first-time guest."
Yes.
Let's put our best foot forward.
I like that, and you wanna make sure for on any of those signs, whether it says, like, first time guest parking or,
Mhm.
just arrows, you wanna make sure that your text and all of everything that's on those signs are large enough to read, think about this, from a moving vehicle, right? So,
Right.
like, this probably isn't the one that we're gonna, just print on our DeskJet printer that's,
You know?
in our office, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna wanna get the A-frame signs, you're gonna wanna make sure that they're big enough, and also just make sure that you're labeling like that main entrance, or if you have a designated kids entrance,
Right.
explain that, right? Like, say, hey, if you have kiddos, your kids ministry this way.
Yeah.
And same thing. I mean, come on, like, restrooms, if you offer coffee, if you have, your auditorium or sanctuary, like, label all of those things in a way that's going to, help people to find their way.
Yeah, that's so good. And, like, even something as small as I know I went to one church one time and I got a full cup of coffee, and then it was like, "No coffee in the auditorium," and I was like, "That's really
It
annoying."
it Well, I've been there. I've been in that experience, and the immediate thing is, "Oh, well, what am I gonna do with it?"
What am
Because,
I gonna do with it?
where do I put
Throw it
and
all
you're like,
like
"How can I
yeah.
get how quickly can I drink this hot cup of
Right,
coffee?"
right. So, maybe even a cute little sign next to the coffee that says, like, "Enjoy your coffee before
Yeah,
service," or, I
right.
don't know, but I don't know why that popped into my head. That was, like,
It
one negative experience that I had at a church. I'm like, "Can't take my coffee in," but
these are the stories that, people, like, that they tell. These are the stories that they tell when they, and that add up to a good or a bad experience.
mhm, mhm,
And they're nothing is none of these things are like make or break, but they all add up to being a great experience. And one
right,
thing that's kind of like, I would say, if nothing else, you want to make sure that you have your volunteers just located around and
mhm,
have them clearly identified. Some churches do t-shirts.
yeah,
Some at our church we do lanyards for
yep,
this,
mhm,
and we're just there and we just strategically place people around. And if, those folks we have trained, if you see someone who's walking around and they seem a little confused, they don't know where to go, just being there and like offering like, hey, I can help you,
yeah.
goes a really long way.
Yeah, I love that. And then too, just like keep in mind that some people might be getting there late and you need
Yes.
a volunteer or two to hang out a little bit,
Yes.
after service has started. And um, you know, I think just having the mindset, trying to think of all the things, and this can evolve too. Like we're giving
Hmm.
you a lot of tips today, so like just start with one and continue to build on that, and hopefully Kendall and I's voices will be in your ear as you're welcoming new guests to say like, oh, did we think about this, or this is something we hadn't considered before, maybe we should now. So um, we probably should have said that at the beginning. And usually when we do these tips, it's like we're not trying to overwhelm y'all at all. These are just things that we've seen
Yeah.
and heard help churches a lot. And so, take what you can and implement it, and leave what you don't want to implement or that's
Yes.
not for your ministry.
I I think that's a good point, Jess. I wanna move I wanna keep moving forward. Our next one, number 5, is to make your kids' experience reassuring for parents. I think about this, Jess, I know that you're a parent.
Yep.
I'm a parent. We've got several kiddos and one on the way, so I'm thinking even more about this, thinking about bringing what it will be like bringing a newborn again to church.
Yeah.
That's gonna
Yeah.
be, an exciting and scary experience a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think about for any parent, regardless of the age of their children, they're going to be coming with them. That children's experience may determine how they feel about the entire visit,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're visiting a place and you're nervous or like your kids don't seem like they're having a great time, it just can throw everything off. And so
Mhm.
just know that if you have people who are coming for the very first time, that anytime you're asking people to leave their child in an unfamiliar place with unfamiliar people, that
Yeah.
just can be stressful, no matter how amazing your kids' ministry is.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so just be extra mindful, for these parents. And, something that we've done before is it's kind of an optional type thing. When we're walking a first time guest through, we'll say, we have an amazing kids ministry. Tell people how my kids enjoy it.
Right.
But it's an optional thing for them. Like, so if you'd like to,
True.
if I can walk, yeah, I can encourage you to come over here and check it out because that's going to be the best experience for them. But if you'd like them to hang out with you, that's, maybe an option,
Yeah.
for you.
That's
Just
a good call out.
explaining all the stuff can kinda bring some of that reassurance that they may be needing.
Definitely. I mean, I think there's some real basic stuff that you need to have on your website. I mean, I
Mm,
say basic, critical is actually the word I was looking for. Some, like, really important stuff that you
yeah,
need to have on your website, like the ages even. So, like, our church
yes.
on Sunday morning, they don't I mean, once your kiddo's out of middle school, they're in service with you. Um,
Mm,
and that's something that's not the same for every church, right? And
right.
so,
Yeah,
ages really need to be super clear on there. Your check-in process, the security measures that you take
yes.
are really, really important. Um,
Allergy information, like
mhm.
parents are gonna wonder about that stuff.
Yeah, if you've got special needs kiddos, this is a big one.
Mhm,
We had when Jeff and I led Sunday school, we had a couple of kiddos that needed some extra help, and
mhm.
think,
Yeah,
kind of helping parents understand, like, what is your kind of plan of attack if their kiddo is really, really struggling? What is your plan to
yes,
support those kids? When do you contact mom and dad? I think that helps so much with clarity, and
yes.
with peace of mind as they're bringing their kids.
And we know how much that a great check-in experience can go a long way, right? So, like, having all the technology that's there, to be able to do all of those things because you wanna make it feel quick
Yeah,
so they're not missing out on getting to go into the service,
right.
but you do not want it to feel rushed, right? You wanna make sure
Mm,
that they feel like that you took your time and answered all their questions and really, took their hand and walked them through this experience so that it
yeah.
feels, intentional. And so
Mm.
having that plan for the parents and for the children, like that's gonna go a really long way.
If you have the luxury of, like, multiple check-in stations, like you
Mm,
do,
yes,
I recommend that you have one specific for new families, not that existing members can't use it as well, but then new
yes,
families know, if I go to this kiosk, I get to ask questions, I get to spend a
yes,
little more time, someone will be there with a friendly face to walk me through this. So, if you can do that, I think it's a great way to help not create a bottleneck too, because that you don't ever
yes.
wanna be that parent that's like, "Oh, the line is getting longer behind me, but I just can't figure it out." Uh,
Right.
so that's a good option if you're
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, that's a good call out. Well, we've gone through 5 tips. What I would love to do, we have 5 more of these suggestions, these strategies that we wanna share, but Jess, I think we should do it as like a rapid fire round. How does
Okay,
that
let's
sound to
do it.
you?
Let's do it.
All right. So number 6, our next tip is to train your team to guide, not just greet.
Mhm.
I will say for this is a big thing because a friendly hello it really matters. Like getting that hello right and all greeting somebody matters. But
Yeah,
genuine hospitality it goes beyond just smiling or waving. It really goes a long way if you can train those team members to
Yes.
really, like if someone needs help, take the time, step
Mhm.
away. That means having enough team members so that they can step
Right.
away for a second and truly give people the time to walk them through the place, right?
Yes, and I know we're going rapid fire, but what's the question that you guys ask Kendall that's not like, "Are you new here?"
So I love this, and this is my number one thing for folks serving on that first time guest team
Yeah,
is you don't say, "Hey, is this your first time?" Because
right.
they may say, "Dude, I've been coming here for 6 months. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?"
uh-huh.
You want to say, "How long have you been coming to our church?"
Yeah, okay,
And
so
it's the perfect way to get them to say, "Oh, it's actually my first time." And
yes.
if you're like me and, just like may not recognize a face or maybe you haven't got a and, I've been through that awkward moment. Never again. I'll never have someone tell me, "Oh, dude, I've been coming for a while. You haven't
Yeah,
met me?" So
right.
no, I always will stick. That's my go-to tip for the first time guest team.
So that should be the first part of this, right? Because that will dictate. I mean, this should be the first part of train your team to guide, not greet,
Yes,
is ask that question because that will dictate how much guiding you need to do, right?
that's
So if
right.
they have been there for
Yes,
6 months, they could just literally be like, "Remind me where the" I don't
that's
know,
it. Where are the restrooms? Where's the coffee?
or whatever.
Who knows?
Yes,
Yeah.
and then that may be all they need, like, "Hey, let me take you over.
Mhm.
You need anything else? I'm gonna refill the creamer," whatever. But if they're like, "This is my first time," then you gotta guide them all the way. Like, they need all the guidance.
Yes.
And so I think it's a good kinda question to ask first so that you
Yes.
understand what that person needs.
Yes. Well, I think that that's a great tip. Maybe that might be the one. That's the one to hold on to if you don't get anything else. Right? Is help guide people, and then yeah, don't just assume it's their first time if you've never
Right.
connected with them.
Mhm, mhm.
All right, number 7 is to remove unnecessary pressure and insider language. That's kind of a two for tip there because you get two
Yeah,
different things. I would just say, like, if they do not want to be acknowledged as a first time guest, do not put that pressure there. Again, that comes back to just what you said. Like, don't ask people to stand up
no.
in front of everyone. I think maybe that would be the most fearful thing for me. The introvert side of me just says, no, please
Yeah,
don't do that.
immediately
Um,
sweating, not good. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
But then the other side is like, okay, so, like, if they want to have the full VIP experience of coming through, then that's amazing. It's
right,
great that you do that. But just understand that, some people are not gonna wanna do that, and it may be the kind of thing where they will come at maybe on their 2nd or 3rd visit, they'll come and they'll introduce themselves as a first-time guest
right,
or as someone who's new to your church, and so don't feel like you have to, have strict enforcement of these kind of first time guest experiences. But the other side of that would just be make sure that when you're communicating, that you're, giving plain terms to these
right.
things. Like, don't feel like they have to figure out some kind of churchy code
Sure.
for the language that you're using when you're talking with them.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great call out. And 2, just to reiterate, they may not wanna feel the whole experience, but, like, in service, I think it is important to acknowledge that there may be new people in the room so
Mm,
that they
good.
feel like they have a place, right? Like,
Yes.
we expected you, we anticipated you, we're glad you're here, and that may be all that you need to do. I know, like, with our church, we have the coffee shop in there, and so you'll text the word "new" and then
Hmm.
get a coffee.
Yeah.
That's cool. And that makes people feel welcome, acknowledged, and then they also get a little treat, which is everybody loves a little treat. So I think
I
there's
love that. Very
there
cool.
in not calling them out, but making them feel seen and welcome, and they could just sit and take it in. If they wanna text the word "new," they can, and we've got a little incentive there so that we can
It's
try to
cool.
follow up with you, right, as a church. But all of it should feel optional, and it should feel like they're not they don't need a glossary of terms to be able to experience your service.
It reminds me too that, like, don't take for granted. They may not know and understand everything that you're talking about, even in your service. So, like, if you're having
Right.
communion that day or, baptisms or things like that,
Yeah.
as you're talking with them and, communicating, just don't take for granted that they know all of those things that are so
Mhm.
common to us who come every week.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. One of my very best friends visited our church for the first time, and, like, we sang the song, "The Blood, The Wonderful Blood." Have you heard this song? It's really
Yeah, yeah, of
literally
course, yeah.
we sang "The blood, the blood, the blood."
Yes.
Oh, the
repeats
one
it a lot for sure.
yeah, and I was, like, sweating. I was like, "What does she think that this is? That we're just singing about blood
Yeah.
over and over?" But there are some things, but also, like, there's grace for that. The Lord can fill the gap, and
Yeah.
she's a strong believer.
Well, some explanations or, just like a quick explainer on things and the significance of them goes a
Mhm.
really long way, whether it's something like, the communion or,
Yeah,
talking about the blood of Jesus and that kind of thing, all the way down to why we do the things that we do, why the service is
100%.
laid out like this, why we lift our hands if your
Yeah,
church does that, why we are, going to take a moment to pray. All of those things. An explanation goes a really long way.
I
So
love that.
that's a good
Added to
call
that
out.
very long card of things that they can expect
Mhm.
also.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, that's good.
a lobby.
Number 8 is the give guest one clear next step. I feel like, Jess, as a process person, you probably appreciate this tip.
Yep, 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 yep. I love it. I love it. And this is a way that this is kind of setting an expectation for them that, like, we
Mhm.
literally loved having you and we really want you to come back. And so I think if they know that it's not just come back next Sunday, and that could be your next clear step. That's
Right.
great. Like, we want you to come back. Maybe fill in that gap with that, the continuing the text messages, workflows, so that there's a touch point throughout the week and a reminder. But also too, as they continue to grow through your church, a lot of churches do like a first time
Yes.
guest class,
Yes.
or for
Yes.
us, it's called Next Move at our church. And so, like, that you'll be attending Next Move lunch. We have one once a month. And you don't even have to RSVP. You can literally just show up. If you're
Just
there
show up, yeah.
day and you just happen to be there on a Sunday with the Next Move, then you go and you attend this lunch and you do understand that's a great place actually to explain, like, this is why we sing about blood all the time. Because it's part of the
That's
church
right.
culture. You can better understand all of those things.
I've heard so many different call to actions that people will give to their guests. Right now in this season, we do something called Step One, and we always have it recurring on the calendar. So there's always a time. Hey, come to Step One on this date right after the gathering. That's right after the service, and so that's always like a clear next step to hear more about our church and how you can get involved. That's an
Yeah.
easy one. I heard about another church. They do every Sunday a 7-minute welcome party right out in the little room right outside of their lobby, and that's a way to let them know, like, hey, it will not take a long time. We would
Right.
love to connect with you. Heard
Yeah.
about another one does party with the pastor. Another one does pizza with the pastor. I mean, there's an endless amount of things that you
Yes.
can do as a next step that would be a little bit more intentional than just show up again next week.
Right.
And so be thinking about that. But whatever it is, make it really, really clear. That would be
Mm.
the best recommendation I could give.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Number 9, our next tip is to follow up quickly, personally, and helpfully. I feel like this is something follow up makes such a big, big difference. It takes it such it's such a next level thing for it not to end as soon
Right.
as the service is over, but for
Right.
someone to genuinely connect with them later in the week and say like, "Hey, we're so glad that you showed up, that you
Yeah.
came."
This is like a real strong discipleship move too, because think
Mm,
about the places that you frequent regularly, whether it's,
yes.
your kid's school or whether it's a restaurant. Like, there's not a lot of places that do this because it
Yes.
doesn't always fit, but, like,
Mhm.
church should be
Yeah.
doing this, right? Like, this is
Yeah.
kind of the expectation setter, you're setting the stage for how you're going to be pursued if you're here, and how you can belong. And again, people can opt out, but providing that follow-up, um,
Yes.
is, I think, really reflects the heart of God.
I think
And
so too.
so, yeah, just, leaving the 99 and let them how can you make them feel like the one? And I think that's really, really important. So this is a great way to leverage those workflows,
Yes.
and take it the next level, use the interactions and make it so much more intentional. But yeah, quickly is important. And you can have like one volunteer to do this, and this is all they do. Like,
Yes.
follow up with people and send that text
Yes.
after, and that's really, really powerful,
Yeah.
and open up the conversation. Allow plug in your next move, next step, 7-minute, whatever that is that
Whatever the next step is, yeah.
hey, you can plug that there so that they know and they're reminded, they can take action right away now that they're maybe home and not trying to get to the car. So, Yeah,
Yeah.
this is really important.
Well, I think again, the structure that I am liking these days for this is to automate the things that, like links to whatever that next step is,
Sure.
like, or they're like, how they can sign up for small group, anything that's practical and in logistics and things like that. But then again, having anyone who can take 5 minutes in that week that follows and say like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm so glad that you came. Do you have any questions?
Right.
Like, is there anything I can do to help you? Is
Yeah.
there anything I can pray for you for this week?
Yeah.
That right there can be a huge difference maker, and
Agree.
it just brings that human side to a process, and so I
Mhm.
think that's such a good thing.
Yeah. It's really important. People wanna belong, and that's generally why they come check out a church anyway.
That's
It
it.
is a
That's really good.
great way to make them feel like they belong.
All right, the 10th, the final tip that we have to offer today as a part of welcoming guests to your church is to experience the entire process like a guest. I feel like this is something that I wish I could go back 10 years ago, 15
Yeah.
years ago, and tell myself as someone who was working in the church is to really just take time to say like, okay, if I was an outsider, literally start from the parking lot experience, maybe
Yes.
even before we talked about the website.
Website.
if
Yep.
if I was a guest, if it was my first time here, experiencing and walking it as if I don't have, the knowledge of what it's like to be here every
Yeah.
week,
Yeah.
and say like, okay, what can I do to make this better for these people who are showing up for the first time?
Yeah. This is the hack. I mean, this is the quickest way to identify gaps. In fact, I would
Yes.
say you should walk through that. But
Mhm.
what's even better is having someone from a different church come walk through that. Friend
Yes.
or,
Yeah.
someone that doesn't maybe come to your church as often, or even if they do, but if you're in it all the time and you're the person troubleshooting all of this, sometimes if you hadn't already seen it, hopefully you'll see it as you're walking through that experience, but having someone that you trust to say like, "Did we think of everything?" Uh,
Mhm.
I think it's just such a quick way to identify, low-hanging fruit on what to fix,
Yeah.
how you can make this a better experience.
It's good just to get a fresh perspective. I love the idea of inviting somebody to do it. The church planner in me is like, if you're talking with someone and you're looking, meet someone in a coffee shop and you tell them about, that you work in a church or you're a part of a new church plant, inviting them whether they, would normally come to a church experience or not,
Yeah.
and saying like, hey, do me a favor, come and experience this and let me know what it's like for someone coming for the first time,
Yeah.
and letting that be your invitation to come. That's
Yeah.
the church planner hack
Super
coming out of
smart.
me.
Yeah.
But saying like, anyone that you maybe who just does not have experience of being there
Mm.
every week, like, invite them to come and to check it out and take that experience. But at minimum, take walking it yourself and saying like, okay, if I didn't know where the restrooms were,
Mhm.
would I know based off of our current signage?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
like, if I didn't know about our kids ministry, would I know how to find check-in or where to go? Any of those things that you can do, you can apply it to every area of your experience.
Mhm.
But asking those questions and saying like, okay, what is this really like to an outsider?
Yeah. Exactly. 100%. I think it's great. I think it's the best way to identify those issues and be able to make adjustments quickly and big adjustments, small adjustments. Like we said, take what works for your ministry
Yeah,
with these tips and leave what doesn't. But really, at the end of the
yeah,
day, you're setting the culture, you're setting the expectation, you're preparing a place for them,
mm,
and it really does go a long way. And it should be really high on your priority list to make this new
yeah.
experience really excellent for people as they come in to your doors for the first time.
That's so good, and it is worth considering how your unique church, your unique ministry
Mhm.
can just make this better, right? Creating that first time guest experience that connects with people is not about, getting the signage just perfect or,
Right.
getting your forms just right. All of those things are great and they add up. They do make a big difference. But
Right.
really those tools matter because you're removing those barriers for a person, right?
Right.
The real goal is to help that person to feel comfortable coming and as they're seeking out God, as they're trying to find a place for their family, finding a way, just helping them to belong. That's the heart behind all of this stuff, right?
It is the heart, and I would say that I'm gonna reiterate what you said at the very beginning. I think sometimes perfection feels
Mm,
sterile, uh,
mm,
and we don't need that. We've got a lot of
yeah,
those types of churches that are real put together, but I think just people feeling. I mean, I'll speak for what my experience in my home, and
yeah,
hopefully you want your church to feel like a home. When I have people over, I tidy up, I clean, right?
yeah.
But I wanted to feel cozy. I wanted to feel home.
Mm,
I wanted to feel like I just want them to feel welcome. And so
yes,
as you're walking through this and you're checking those boxes and double checking things, make it functional, make it quick.
yes,
Logistically, you need that to work well so that nobody's frustrated. But
yes.
as far as the atmosphere is considered, do what you can to make it feel homey and
Mm,
welcoming, not perfect. We don't need
yes.
perfect churches. We need welcoming churches and loving churches.
Mm,
So,
it's
and
good.
that usually boils down to your people too. Yes, like how you
Yes,
operate matters, but your people make that. Your volunteers make that experience. So we didn't
yes.
include that tip on here, but make sure that your volunteer teams are well trained in loving people well as
I
they walk
love that.
through doors.
Yeah, we want people to feel like, "Hey, we were expecting you. We planned for you to be here, right? We're glad that you're here. You've got a place to, welcome home," I think is
Mhm.
as the message, that just as it was to the prodigal son, I think it is for these people
Yes,
who are coming into your church.
love
And so that's so good. Well, for all of you listeners out there, I hope these tips have been helpful to you. Hopefully, they make a difference for you as you're trying to make your church be that welcoming place for the people and as you're serving your community. And hopefully, you can grab, if not, you probably, it's good to just pick one or two and try to run with it. You won't be able to do everything, all these tips all at once. But yeah, hopefully, you grab something. And Jess, I just want to say again, I'm so excited for your next chapter. And I appreciate you taking time to talk us through all of these things today because again you're going to be in the
it.
working in the heart of this very very soon in your next season. We're excited for you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited too. I'm gonna be taking these tips back to work with me next week.
Yeah. Oh well, we're excited for you, and you have to promise, Jess, that you'll come back next time as a guest so you can share some of the things that you've learned as you've stepped into this. Is that fair?
That's absolutely fair.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Jess. We wish you nothing but the best. We're celebrating and cheering you on. For all of you listeners out there, if this has been helpful to you, if it's encouraged you, if it's reminded you about having that heart for welcoming people into the house of God, would you share this with someone? Would you consider sharing it with a friend? Help us to get this message out, these practical tips and advice out to the world. We'd love to be able to speak into even more ministry leaders. And so that helps us do that. Again, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button to make sure that you're able to keep getting these conversations because we're going to have many more planned. And we'll just say until next time, keep leading well right there in your community. And we'll catch you right back here next week for more Church Leadership Lab.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.